What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm John Caspian, joined by Mark Schubach and John Galvin.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. So today we're talking about some of the reveals from the UK Games Expo that Warhammer did.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very exciting stuff. So I will go ahead and see if I can pull that up on
Yeah,
the good
so
old...
one of the cool things that they actually revealed or this is one of the few times that they have like a big announcement or big reveals and they don't necessarily have anything for the main Age of Sigmar or 40K lines that they're showing. These
Right.
are all just basically specialty game systems that they're coming out with, which I think is a really cool um thing for them. It's not every time that a company can show off
Side
their
products.
I don't even want to call them side products, but their specialist games.
Yeah, there we go.
Right.
Specialist games is their branded term, but it does make it is actually a very good term for them because they give you a much more narrow like experience
Yeah.
in whatever setting they're in. So Blood Bowl, Warcry, Necromunda, Blackstone Fortress, they're all this kind of smaller slice of life in the Warhammer and Age of Sigmar realms or games themselves.
But that's just for today. Like, there might be bigger news for the main things tomorrow.
Maybe I haven't had a chance to actually read through the article, but that might be it. That might be all they show.
Yeah.
Which is
Right now it's the smaller games, yeah.
which is absolutely fine. Starting off, they showed off the Arbites for Necromunda, and those models
I'm
are
going to show that on screen now.
gorgeous.
Oh yeah, I love the whole Judge Dreddish special forces kind of look.
And this is one of those things. The first thing I did was show them to Mark. I'd be like, Mark, you can convert these guys to look awesome for one of your armies. And it would be really cool for your Wasteland guys. You have the Goliath for the mutants, but you can use the Arbites for either the acolytes or the another variety, like a different style of troop, which is really cool.
I actually think they'd be great if you wanted to represent a planetary defense force.
Oh yeah. Also, yeah, great conversions for Imperial Guard.
Oh, dude, I'm getting a Loyal 32 out of these guys.
Yeah.
So cool.
Or you can basically pick up some Steel Legion helmets from Forge World or whatever and start putting them on.
Yeah.
It's really, these models are so great because they are set in that 40K universe, but the applications you can have for them are really endless. So it's really nice. And I know the Arbites has been something that a lot of people like. And I have a lot of friends that are fans of the Judge Dredd universe. So anyone who kind of likes that post-apocalyptic lawman vibe, will be kind of right at home with all these fellas.
Can their leader please be Wilford Brimley?
Oh God, I
Diabetes.
Oh my gosh.
Hopefully.
It's not even noon yet and the puns are starting.
Yeah. So anyways, these guys are amazing and they're going to go great with our Necromunda leagues that we run. Pretty much, I think every quarter at this point we have a Necromunda league. It's usually in between Kill Team and Necromunda, flipping back and forth.
I believe last night was the final fight of this.
This
one we just had.
Ricky did do a clarification there. Enforcers, not Arbites.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Looks like Wilford Brimley isn't going to be.
Well, that's even better because Enforcers are all. They're like Wrath and Glory has Enforcers.
Yeah. And so
yeah,
that's another good point too, where it's just hey, a lot of this Necromunda stuff. If you guys haven't watched the Wrath and Glory campaign, there's a lot of hivers that we have to deal with on a regular basis in a Necromunda campaign. So it is really great to also have these miniatures available to represent on the tabletop for an RPG as well. So I really like that.
Yeah.
All right.
It's awesome. Next up, Blood Bowl.
Yeah. So as someone who had
y'all speak on our Blood Bowl league a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say, as someone who had to play against the Wood Elves last night,
So Wood Elves have one of the most frustrating starting players. You can get a player to the point where they're hard to deal with, but Wood Elves right off the bat.
Yeah.
And granted, there's a price associated with that ability, but they just have characters that are just almost impossible to get on the ground. They'll dodge, they'll jump, they'll just ignore most of your attacks. So you have to roll perfectly to get them knocked down, and it's frustrating.
Correct. So I had to deal with that for the first time. yesterday, but the Blood Bowl league that we have going on, we have basically an inter-store league going between the warehouse and the main staff here at Gigabytes, and I'm obviously playing Lizardmen because you know they're the best, and
I'm undead.
Yeah, no, you're Mark.
Yeah, I'm Mark.
And so we are playing through all this, and we're having a great time with it. For those that don't play Blood Bowl is one of those older games that Games Workshop came out with forever ago, and has been revitalized. It is a grid-based game set in a offshoot fantasy world in which you are playing a variant of like rugby and American football mashed together. So it's a lot of fun.
For anyone who like plays League of Legends and everything, the whole like, oh, there's no more wars and disputes. Now everything's settled in this arena. It's the same way with Blood Bowl. Basically, they stumbled upon this ancient stadium and unearthed like a tome of Nuffle, and it just had these rules for this game that everyone had forgotten about.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, everyone just decides to stop fighting wars and start fighting on the pitch.
Yeah, which is great. And so the game's a lot of fun.
It doesn't take itself seriously.
Correct.
So
you know, it's a fun, lighthearted game, and the rules are light enough to where you can pick it up really easily. And the fact that it's a grid-based system on a smaller field means that you get to have fun painting your 11 to 16 guys, call it a day there, and then you can play on just like a kitchen table or basically whatever surface you can find. It does
great opportunity for the contrast paints.
Oh yeah, I'm waiting on those for these guys.
And we'll talk about the contrast paints a little bit later on in the show and what's going on with them. But yeah, like easy to paint. And with me, with my Lizardman team, I just have to mod them up to really get them to be finished. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, so Wood Elves are coming. And with the Wood Elves, it's a full new plastic kit that we'll have in the store relatively soon. And they're coming out with a couple of new star players through Forge World that you can incorporate into the Wood Elves and the Halflings that should be arriving today.
Yeah. So I think I'm getting Halflings because I tend to be demoing Blood Bowl a lot. And the perfect team to demo with is Halflings because they are they're the perfect demo team to try it with because they're worse in almost every way. Like they're not faster than the elves, but they're weaker than everyone else. They have the worst armor in the game. So
I've heard they're a really pain to play against though.
Like the only thing that makes him tough is if you have a tree man throw him across your line and he stands up and runs for a touchdown.
Yeah.
But the issue with them is they are weaker, so they don't have the dice advantage. They don't have an agility advantage that comes with being weaker, and their armor is broken on average dice rolls. So while everyone else is sitting fancy and high on their, well, you got to roll well to knock my players out, Halflings have my armor's so bad, you just need average rolls to take my players out. And on top of that, I have a rule that says you get +1 to the injury roll as well because I'm small.
Yeah.
So you'll be losing players left and right, but those players are cheap and replaceable.
Right. And so it's kind of fun and thematic. They released this week, but for anyone who's interested in either learning Blood Bowl or asking more questions about it, come find us here at Gigabytes, either myself, Mark, or anyone. Ask about our league. And if y'all are interested in playing in Blood Bowl, our own Josh Lee Center, and by our own, I mean he's a guest here at the store, but he's running a league for anyone who comes to Gigabytes.
Sweet.
Coming up pretty soon, right? Is it starting now? Or
I think it's starting now.
Okay, yeah.
But it's never too late to jump in.
Exactly.
I will say, oh God, the neat thing about Blood Bowl is the rules. You can be as in depth or just as formal, or not formal, but casual as you want. So there's rules for like bringing your own ball.
Yeah.
And so like dwarves can bring a mastercrafted ball that's just like so heavy it's like throwing a 40-pound rock.
Nice.
But like goblins can bring a snotling that's in a ball suit, and so the ball tries to escape the players and run towards the end zone. So it's got some great funny things. So that's what I love. Yeah. It's a game that doesn't take itself seriously, and it's also a game where you don't get alpha struck
Yeah.
every single time. Like you can have players fall down, they'll stand up, they'll try to do some work back, but you know, if you keep your distance, it's not like everyone can just rush up to your one player and take them down. Like you have one
Speaking of
to do that.
speaking of Alpha Strike, Warcry is the next one.
Yes.
Yep.
So Warcry, they just revealed the 4th warband coming to the game, which is the what is it, Corvus Cult?
Looks like it.
Yeah,
They look so cool.
So basically, what these guys are, they come from the realm of Shadow, which is really neat. So once again, we kind of get like a little bit of look into what the realm of Shadow, what the people look like there, what they're about.
Oh, yeah. They have not shown much of the realm
Correct.
of Shadow.
Yeah, and so it's one of those things where we now see what some of the people look like, and this is interesting in a lot of ways because this Corvus cult is all about ravens and things like that. And something we were talking about at the Games Day at Alliance was, hey, is there necessarily a translation for every animal in the old world to the new one? And not quite the same. Like, but basically every animal there has kind of a Corvus Cavall, not Corvus Cult. There we go. But so
Cabal.
Basically, ravens or corvids, which is the scientific term, do exist in the Age of Sigmar setting. They apparently make their home in the realm of Shadow, which makes a lot of sense. And these guys, this cabal, obsessively consumes the flesh of their victims. So, like, they don't leave anything behind. And that's their shtick. And they're kind of a talk or conversation that we had where if we had to assign a god to some of these war bands, what would you assign? And you know, birds are usually the sign of Tzeentch, but these guys are obsessive about, you know, taking everything, like just absolutely eating everything possible on a body and just leaving the bones picked clean. And so it could be, the translation could be, oh hey, these guys are Slanesh cultists. But they're not
interesting.
tied to Slanesh either. Even though Slanesh makes its home in the realm of Shadow, they're not like worshipping Slanesh, but it's easy to make that jump, that next step down into devotion to a particular god.
But also, they look like they worship like various carrion birds.
Exactly.
So
yeah, they worship they worship the great big bird. Like that's.
Have either of y'all seen any of the gameplay from the game?
No, we haven't. They haven't displayed any of that yet. We're expecting a lot to be similar to Age of Sigmar, but with like additional rules similar to like Necromunda. How Necromunda in this edition took a lot of the 8th edition 40k and incorporated new rules or new ways to do things.
I definitely think they're gonna make good use of all the terrain they've been using. Like the Sigmar runes are gonna be probably amazing for getting that done. Like imagine having to fight, and because Necromunda really incorporates the vertical as well.
Correct.
So you have these runes that have steps, vertical like points of.
And we've already seen that in the starter box, like the trailers and previews that they've shown for the core box, which is the Iron Golems versus the Untamed Beasts.
Oh yeah.
There's
Ramparts, right?
There's new terrain. There's even like walkways that you can use to make like different terrain connect together.
Yep.
Similar to how like Necromunda does it. So we're expecting a lot more finer rules in terms of interacting with the world around you. And then also, if you look in Forbidden Power, one of the cool things in Forbidden Power is, oh, that's right. Yeah. One of the cool things about Forbidden Power is that at the beginning of the campaign, your character general or whoever you assign can basically find an artifact, and through games played, that artifact starts leveling up. Now, this might be a mechanic that they incorporate into Warcry, where it's not necessarily an artifact, but the characters or the models themselves can upgrade and advance over time, adding in that Necromunda or Mordheim-esque feel to it.
One thing that
so GW's not always been great about utilizing terrain with their gameplay. So in 8th edition, melee armies, depending on the terrain, can get screwed over pretty bad. But I figure in this, if it's an integral part of it, shouldn't be a problem.
Also, if you look at it, looks like everyone's melee.
Right.
I bet you those snake eyes throw snake.
There might be some people who like throw a spear or something.
Like the range will be more limited. It'll be much different than, let's say, Kill Team, because Kill Team, they're taking models that operate at a 40K scale and moving it down.
Right.
Or Warcry, and similar to Necromunda, they are building these models to work within that setting.
I can imagine you'll have a 6-inch range, maybe 8 maximum. Is my predicament.
Well, there's this guy here that has a crow, and I imagine the crow could probably fly 12 to 18.
Yeah, but the crow will get homesick at 6.
Yeah.
Right.
What if it's carrying a coconut?
Yeah.
Well, just one of them?
Yeah, just a coconut.
Yeah.
How far do you think?
If it's an Akshi crow, that might be fine.
So this is the 4th out of 6 Warbanes that we've seen so far.
And so is it when they release the 6th, that's when it like comes out a week later or two?
I mean, that seems like a Games Workshop thing to do. Hopefully. It should be their summer release, so we should actually see it going up for sale.
Yeah.
Probably by the end of June, but we'll definitely see. A lot of things have been turned upside down in terms of the release schedule as of late. So
there's been a lot of issues with getting product across.
Imports.
And also they are like doing a lot of new things that they haven't done before. Like contrast paints and all these different games going on at the same time. So we'll see.
And you've got Sisters in August or September, right?
If we're lucky.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
And so the last reveal, or the second to last reveal they did, was a new Blackstone Fortress expansion, which is I really love it because it looks like they're introducing new cultist models, and I think they look absolutely fantastic. Once again, these cultists don't look necessarily defined by one god or another.
Undivided is a nice look.
Yeah, but like the nice thing about these guys too is that they're not overly like gritty.
Yeah,
like the old cultists were wearing like rags and like lots of
I can't wait to be promoted.
These are more Grecian.
Yeah, and so I kind of
like one of the leaders looks like they have like part of a minotaur's horns.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So yeah, I mean, like the models are absolutely phenomenal on there, and we're definitely excited to get those guys.
I think Games Workshop has definitely capitalized on the popularity of legacy games because their games are essentially legacy as soon as you say it's a campaign. So you have all these characters that you develop, hope they don't die, level up when they do, and you get to have this personalized warrior at your disposal. You're playing friends who are good at not getting shot. Well, congratulations. Your best character is now a melee monster that wrecks them in close combat. But like these are essentially tabletop games that have turned legacy because I think just really went on that popular bandwagon and applied it to their games, and it's great. I love it.
For a lot of players, the continuity is almost necessary nowadays. We have so many games out right now in the marketplace. So for a lot of folks, when they get Gloomhaven, they know we can play like 100 sessions or something like that.
Oh yeah, we definitely got more than 100 hours in our Gloomhaven.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
how many games has your group played of Gloomhaven, Mark?
Probably around 30.
Right.
Like we went basically through all the things we could.
Plus, they have the new expansion coming out. We'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah. So the new, but yeah, like people want to get a lot out of their investment, and companies want people to get invested in their games because that means, oh hey, you've bought Blackstone Fortress, you've played through it, you have that investment done. I have this new expansion out, which gives you a new opportunity to play. But since you've already done that initial purchase of Blackstone Fortress, you have more or less a reason to go buy it and start playing it and get into it.
And the cross compatibility is honestly, I say it every single time, is a huge factor in doing it.
Correct.
Hey, I have a 40k army. I want a kill team army. Well, I'll just take this kill team army that can just be thrown into my 40k army. Look, I can now play both games, and it wasn't like a scary investment for me.
Yeah, which is really awesome.
I don't like kill team. Well, I just throw it in my 40k army.
Yeah. So actually, in one of those things, I thought the Blackstone Fortress expansion was the second to last, but it is the last. And what they're doing is, I'm not sure if you remember that like Inquisition Arena game that they're coming out with, the one with the new sanctioned psyker, the new new AdMech guy with a servitor that follows him around, and plus the rogue trader with the sword leg.
Okay, yeah, now it's familiar.
Those characters are in this new Blackstone Fortress expansion.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So that'll be a way to pick up those new models and things like that, which is once again like if you want that So if you want something better than the old metal model of a sanctioned psyker, it's a great way to get into get that. And then also Inquisition characters, new rogue traders, all that sort of good stuff. So look out for this Blackstone Fortress expansion. I would expect probably late July or something of that nature, at least from what they're saying. From this point, I kind of want to segue into a release that's coming up really soon, which is going to be the contrast paints.
Yes.
So contrast paints are releasing on the 15th. And the issue that we've had with contrast paints is that we are only getting 6 of each pot at release. And this is for everyone. We've tried to increase our allocation. We've tried... we have gone so far as to even try to open up a new account to get a second rack. And unfortunately, none of that's worked. So we are stuck with only 6 of each paint at release. Now, that's only the first week. The second week that rolls through, we can get any number of contrast paints we want.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
all the paints.
Yeah, so it's literally like, I know some people are upset that they didn't get onto the first 6 bundles that we had, but we're still selling the bundles. We are still taking pre-orders and all that. It's just that you'll be set to get yours on the 21st as opposed to the 16th. So
not too bad though.
No, it's a week wait. And I know
we've waited long enough, right?
Right. And some people want to get their contrast paints now, and I don't blame you. It's a really exciting product, and this is coming from me. I got to try it last week at the Games Day up in Wisconsin, and
how was that?
Phenomenal. It was really great. It was hosted by one of the distributors, ACD. They put on a fantastic event.
Left out a C.
ACD?
C.
Oh, the band. So they put on a fantastic event, and not only did I get to attend a lot of seminars about how to run a better business, but I also got to talk with a lot of the people who work at these publishing companies like Games Workshop, Army Painter, Weird Miniatures, all that sort of good stuff. And I got to get my hands on the contrast paint. The contrast paints are as advertised.
Can you grab some examples?
Yeah. Get the Salamander and the Anvil Helden Hammer. Yeah,
you almost got me really excited to see a contrast pot.
Oh yeah.
I wish and that was something else that we asked for. If we could have gotten a demo set of contrast paints.
Focus a second.
As if it wasn't going to be popular enough, people to actually try it. Oh my god.
Right, yeah. Like if we could get like a set or like even like a bundle of 6, we would have just left them on the paint table and had people try them out.
It focused well a second ago, but but
that looks great.
Yeah, this is just one coat, and you can obviously see that it essentially does the work for you.
And so with contrast paints, you need to have a light primer. Now, it doesn't require you to use the Games Workshop, Wraithbone or Greyseer, but they do recommend to get the most consistent effect to use their products, which is 100% understandable because they don't test outside of their own brands. Why would they? So if you guys want to get the most consistent effect, please pick up the new primers. You can use Corax White. However, we live in Georgia.
Corax is not very forgiving.
Correct. So the Wraithbone and the Greyseer will be much more forgiving because they use different pigment colors than what the Corax White does.
And don't worry about the Wraithbone being an off-white color. You're still going to get the correct color on your contrast paints.
Correct.
It just means that you don't get the flakiness of the pure white.
Exactly. The Wraithbone is basically just like an eggshell. It is just a very little off-white. The Greyseer is a cool, very light gray, so think of almost like Celestia gray.
Yeah.
Now with the Greyseer, it will change the nature of the colors a little bit from the pot. Basically, it'll make them a little bit cooler and a little bit darker.
Do you know what these were primed in?
Those should be the Wraithbone.
Gotcha.
So
nice.
Now, They both do different effects, which is super great. Yeah.
As soon as we can, John, you and I are doing that paint competition. I'm going to use the regular painting method, and then you're going to use the contrast, and we see who can get the most done in 30 minutes, something like that.
So I need to get some models primed up, and we'll have a competition.
So now, why would we want to have John on stream sleeping while you paint?
Yeah. In reminders, limitations of contrast paints or technical information about contrast paints is a better way of saying this.
Yes.
It is non-toxic, so you can lick your brushes. 2,
cool.
Tastes better than their washes.
Yep.
They do. They don't taste as
good addition to your morning coffee.
Yeah, no.
Information you need to know.
Yeah. So 3 is, as someone who does not want to just dunk my brush in a pot and like slather it on, that's really what you need to do with these contrast paint.
Gotcha.
We have some examples of other people's work here that basically tried a lighter touch approach, and when you do a lighter touch, that's when it becomes like splotchy and the color isn't as vibrant. So one thick coat is absolutely true.
Sorry, Duncan.
Right. 4 is they recommend a medium layer brush and a medium glaze brush to apply the contrast paints.
See if we can give them examples.
And so
there's a medium layer brush. I got it right here.
Yeah.
So it's pretty thin.
Yeah.
And what was the other one you said?
Medium glaze brush.
Oh, I don't have a glaze brush.
So glaze brushes are going to be a little bit thicker. They recommend basically the glaze brushes to apply, and then using the medium layer brush, that's as small as you want to go to do smaller detail on the model. And they say this because the like small layer brushes or small glaze brushes, anything in the small category, you can't get enough actual paint on that brush to apply that one thing.
Right.
So how easy is it, like for example, when you did these shoulder pads, to keep it from making it to the trim, I guess?
Fairly easy, but I think Stormcasts are a little cheaty because the trim on their like shoulder pads is raised so high.
Yeah.
The Space Marine was a little bit more difficult, especially like on the Salamander where the trim is green around the black. I ended up just making the entire shoulder pad green and then painting the black in there. And that leads me to the next point, which is if you apply a contrast paint over another contrast paint, it reduces the effect of the second layer. Okay. So basically it does its best work when it's over a lighter color. So if you did something like green and then applied the black contrast paint over the green, it ends up just looking pure black.
Do they have they obviously have Wraithbone in a pot? Like are you paint back over?
100%. That was what I was going to get to. Okay. Yeah, they are making Wraithbone and Grey Seer in a pot. So which is really great. So like I can slather on the green and then come back with the Wraithbone, paint in the shoulder pad area white, and then do the black over that, and it works just fine.
So question, John, in terms of the pooling, and you said it was kind of a glaze wash thing. Does it pool a lot, or how does that work?
Yes. It doesn't pool as quickly as like a regular wash because the paint is much more viscous.
Okay.
But you need to be careful of it because the moment it starts pulling, if you're not able to wick it away quick enough, it'll start to dry, and that's when you'll start getting those like rings. And that will ruin your day. And so at that point, you need to, take off the paint.
Yeah.
Almost use an X-Acto knife or maybe some super fine sandpaper to take away where the ring was at. Re-put the white base coat on there and then apply the paint again. And the issue is, like, let's say I have an arm, right? And I get down to halfway through the arm and I take a break. And I come back and apply contrast paint again to the other half of the arm. Where it connects to the other paint that has settled, you're applying a layer of contrast over another layer, and you'll get a ring where you'll see basically the undercoat underneath it, and that will be a noticeable. Now, it won't ruin the model, but it will definitely be noticeable.
So this is where you adapt, improvise, and overcome. Put stitch marks on that ring,
exactly,
and you make it a reattached arm.
Yeah. So with contrast paints, the best thing to do is if anyone has used watercolor before, it is like painting with watercolor, just in a 3D format.
So yeah,
I have another question now about recesses. So then, like, you have the spots in the Space Marine arm
Mm-hmm.
that, like, you know, if that pools in there, is it the same as a wash where it just muddies up the detail?
Yeah.
It doesn't muddy it up. It darkens it. It works. It works like a.
But it doesn't add the extra layer. You know, paint dries from a wash or whatever, it ends up thickening in that area.
Yeah.
Like it
Is it still
definitely
thin though?
it definitely makes it a lot darker.
Yeah. So it works the same way as like a Nolan oil wash would. It darkens the recesses without destroying it.
Cool.
That
Awesome.
makes sense. Is that answer
Yes.
the question? Okay, great.
To me, it makes sense. Yes, that does.
So basically, however they formulated this, wherever it like concentrates or pools in an area, it gets much darker. Nanobots, right?
Smart
No, it's definitely
technology.
not the pigment or the medium or anything like that. So it gets much darker in the recesses, which makes it kind of do that 3-in-1 highlight wash, highlight layer shade. So, yeah, it really does do that like battle ready art.
Now I have another question, because I have so many questions about this, and I'm sure people watching do as well, so make sure you guys put in the comments. We'll try to read them. The highlight color, so oftentimes if you have a gray, a lot of people like to highlight or whatever with a little bit of blue, like a bluish tone. No, the highlight naturally for things like that green that you use for the salamander, does that pull more yellow because of the wraith bone? Like, how does that...
So the highlights and all that are going to be a little bit more desaturated than... let's say you doing it by yourself. And desaturated means basically going more to the spectrum of white or black as opposed to going from a green to a yellow, right? So it is a lighter green, and with the wraith bone, it does make it effectively a more yellowish lighter green, but it is still desaturating from the initial tone itself. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's basically like you're mixing in an eggshell to whatever color you are to highlight up. And
then did you notice that there was more of that highlight effect on like the areas where there's more texture there? So for instance, on the shoulder pad, is there the same amount of highlighting effect as there is on those textured parts?
Yeah, no. So basically it's like someone came in and edge highlighted the model. So things that don't necessarily have a lot of edge to them will not get as much of that highlighting effect.
Well, what I find impressive, just like the balls at the end of the power pack, back of the heel, it just all has the kind of highlighting I would expect to see from natural light. And so that's what I find most impressive. Is a lot of times I'm just looking at a model, it's like, how do I highlight this? And it just makes it the most brain dead answer I can think of. Is just put it on there.
One of the great things too about all of this is the fact that like Mark said, it will go towards the natural inclination of an overhead light, because that's how gravity works. And so this is a great way or a great tool for people who don't necessarily have an art background or set up reference shots or anything like that for the minis, to kind of get a base to it. So there's nothing to stop Mark from doing a start of contrast and being like, okay, great, I can see the light.
Exactly.
And then let's say Mark wants to go with a more saturated highlight instead of the kind of like eggshell highlight that contrast does. Well, he already knows where his highlight should be because he's got it laid out for him. So I think that's really great.
Or you can apply it to models where you couldn't use contrast paints. Like, all right, I know I need.
Yeah, so that's a big problem with me of like yellows.
Yeah.
If you get a Averland Sunset where it's a darker yellow, I don't always know exactly what highlight color to do. So that's great. Good to know.
With me, yellows are tricky because I want to highlight them, but usually the saturated yellow that I use is like the highest form of yellow that I have available to me.
Right.
I highlight it with like a white or like an eggshell, and it ends up turning the model more of a cream color than versus a yellow color, and then that's when I would have to go in with like the ink to kind of get that back in.
So, John, what I've done with Averland Sunset is I actually go over with, like John said, an eggshellish white over any place that I want to edge highlight. And I'll go over that, and then I'll actually dry brush the Averland back over it. And that's what gives me that more subtle change.
That's a good tip. I like that. I like that a lot.
That's what I did on my Iron Jaws.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and the final thing with contrast paints is you need to seal your models after you're done with them.
Why is that? Oils will, on your fingers will dissolve, the sweat and oil.
Even though it is one thick coat, it is still just a coat. So it is more susceptible to the oils and moisture in your hand just rubbing off, it can reactivate the paint, and basically you can slide off of the paint itself with your just normal hands. Or if you're putting them into the foam bags, the basically the texture of the foam bag itself can start rubbing off the paint.
It's not doesn't feel like it, but it's sandpaper to the model.
Correct. So definitely do yourself a favor. We carry multiple kinds of varnish, either paint varnish or not. Paint on or spray, excuse me. And it really does protect the models. And on that note, Games Workshop, this is a segue. It is not just contrasts that are coming out on the 16th. There is entire new line of paints, and by new line, I mean a revivified line of paints.
Whoa, say that again?
Revivified.
Ah, so cool.
It is the
like that word.
Forge World brand of paints.
Oh.
So anything that you could have gotten on Forge World from their site, God, I think they discontinued them almost like 2 years ago, maybe less. I can't remember. But they're bringing them back, and it is now through us. So we now can carry the Forge World paints, and we'll have them here on the shelf. And with that as well is there's new ways and new pots of, oh my God, I'm trying to think of it. There's basically a new matte varnish in a pot that you can have, and it's like Tau Energy Shield or something like that. I can't remember what it's called, but basically there's 34 contrast paints. However, there's 66 new paints coming to the line on the 16th. We don't know a lot about the Forge World stuff, so we haven't taken any pre-orders on it.
Aren't those more airbrush related?
Correct. They're more airbrush related, and there also seems to be some inks and things like that in there.
Ooh, very cool.
I know there's a Magnus Did Nothing Wrong red.
For real?
Well, it's Magnus red, but
I gotcha.
Magnus Did Nothing Wrong red.
That'd be really great if that was the whole line there. Real quick, Colin asks about mixing two paints of contrast together.
Yes, you can. You can 100% mix them. And oh God, it's so good. You can actively blend contrast paints together on the model. The dry time is about 5 minutes or so.
That's a while, okay.
Yeah, it's much longer. It seems like the contrast paints is made a lot from this new medium, which contains a drying retarder.
Cool.
So you have a lot of work time. And so as it's drying, one of my favorite things to do, or one of the best things to do, is probably going to be mixing like an underbelly with like basically like the top of the skin or the shells or anything like that. Really phenomenal, really great to use together. Just kind of getting that undertone with an overtone on the back.
Yeah.
Or if Colin, like let's say Colin wanted something that's a little bit more orangey than just the yellow, but not quite as orange as the orange, he can mix those two together on a palette and apply there all together on the model itself. So you can mix colors. You can do that. I think you can. I haven't tried it yet, but it seems like you can take the contrast medium, mix it with another GW paint that there maybe isn't a contrast paint yet, and then apply that to a model in a similar effect. I haven't tried it, so I can't say yeah, that's going to work. But supposedly,
give it a shot, right?
You know how it goes.
And I think that kind of paint will work well with like an eyedropper, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just get your palette out.
Yeah, and that's going to be important if you're mixing contrast paints together, is to be mindful of your formulas, just because you can't really go back and work it, the same way that you could with a layer paint. So just be mindful of that. Yeah.
Sweet.
So
contrast paints. So yeah, please get your pre-orders in. We will be getting basically enough for everyone on the 21st of June. So
Colin asked about the contrast medium, and basically it's their special formulation meant to be used with the contrast paints.
Correct.
Because if you add water to the contrast paints, it kind of breaks down whatever formulation is in there.
Correct. I can tell you that it turns from that kind of nice gradation into splotch city.
So it turns into a wash?
A splotchy wash. So
Flow Improver will do that sometimes. It'll cause splotchiness really bad.
And so just be mindful of that as you're doing it. Make sure that your brush is wet without being like
Damn.
like loaded with water.
Yeah, damp, not wet.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, be careful with that. Yeah.
Sweet.
But yeah, so with that, contrast paints are on the 21st. We will probably be doing the paint stream the following week. So the last full week of June, which I believe it's going to be either the 27th or 8th. We'll have me and John's paint off. So.
And if I happen to be able to get contrast paints locally, then I'll be the one that does the contrasting stuff. It might be good because I'm not a very good painter, so...
John.
It might be a good idea for me to do that, then.
First, John.
Yeah, well...
My money's on John.
The thing is, I can't paint quickly, but I can paint well.
Gotcha.
Well, should I try it then?
Yeah, it might be Mark who has to compete against the contrast paints for the paint stream. Because by the time you can paint like 10 dudes, I can paint a face. And that's with normal paint. So...
and how long did those 2 models that you painted, how long did those take you?
The Space Marine was 5 minutes. The Sigmarite was 8.
Yeah. Only Space Marine was 2 colors.
Sigmarite was... I ended up using 4 on the Sigmarite because I blended a little bit of oranges and browns into the weapon to kind of do that like non-metallic gold effect. But yeah. The big
5 minutes, though, for a model?
Yeah.
I'm just excited because black is one of the hardest things to paint and to get the detail to pop. Yeah. And it just does the work.
Yeah, that Black Templar white is money. And same with the white. The white is on the base of it, like the little marble slab.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, it looks so good. So the 2 hardest colors, especially for beginners, the 4 hardest colors are reds, whites, yellows, and blacks. And these contrast paints just knock it out of the park. So... I love it for people who want to have those Imperial Fist armies that want to have like gorgeous looking Blood Angels or whatever army they want, and they can just like do it and feel proud of the work that they do and not get frustrated at it. The ease of frustration is what I'm most excited about for the contrast paint, because I love to see painted armies on the table, and now you don't have any excuse to not paint your army because something's hard. Just fine. If it's difficult, go grab a contrast paint and knock it out.
Before you look at maybe a Games Workshop product box, like Dark Elder, for example, with their essentially black base coat.
Correct.
And then what they highlight with, you're like, really? And then you like try it, you're beginning, you just dry brush it on there and you just head explodes because you realize, wow, this works this way. And then now you just have one bottle.
I hate edge highlighting. And I can tell
it's
you
the worst.
I can tell you that edge highlighting is one of the ways to make Games Workshop models really pop. And the fact that there's now a paint out there that does it for you with as well as shading, I'm so happy. Look forward to...
I personally have tried blending for about 3 months now, and I'm still rubbish.
Well, contrast paints will help you with the blending. It's a great way, to me, to pick up like the fundamentals of 2-brush blending, because they have the extended work time. You can kind of blend things together with those paints, and it makes it at least like gives you like how you should be doing it with regular acrylic paints as opposed to the contrast paint.
I feel like, I watch the Miniac videos, Sam Lin's, all these other folks about and the gentleman from Privateer Press.
Yeah.
I've watched his videos, several of those, and I try it, and then it still looks like a hot mess.
It takes a lot of time and practice. It is a lot of effort to perfect 2-brush blending. This is coming from someone who I don't feel like I've even perfected it. I see like my contemporaries here at the store, like Curtis, Akira Berger, like they just Chris Miller. These guys can just like knock out that 2-brush blend and make it look like it's no effort whatsoever. So I'm giving up, and I'm just going to start cheating and using contrast.
I love it.
Ain't nobody got time to paint all the time.
So let's talk about the Gloomhaven expansion and some other releases that we have.
Yeah.
So then this one, there it is.
Forgotten Circles. Ooh.
Can you show us the back?
So.
Oh yeah.
This is basically 4 folks that have played through Gloomhaven and think that they've done everything. Well, guess what, Mark? You haven't.
Yeah.
So Forgotten Circles is the first full expansion to the Gloomhaven thing. It does add in at least one new class. I say at least one new class because that's what they advertise on the back. But it's Gloomhaven, so maybe that class can be multiple different things by the end of it. But this has new everything. So anything that you could do in the game, it's got new versions of it. So this is a...
I have heard that it contains spoilers, so don't use it until you've completed the campaign.
Correct.
If you care about the story.
Yes, and that's a big thing. This is for people that are more or less finished with the base game, that want a new adventure.
Yeah.
Cool.
So like this is perfect for Mark's group, who has said that, oh hey, we've done everything. Well, not anymore.
Yeah.
And the price point is great. So $40.
Nice.
How many people do you have in your Gloomhaven group?
We have the max party size of 4 people.
So guess what? $10 per person, and you're getting a bunch more sessions out of it. So this is something to really invest in for your Gloomhaven groups, and a way to either reinvigorate a group that maybe has stopped playing because you finished what you could, or it is something to excite people to work towards.
Yeah.
I know my roommate, he has a group of friends that have been playing Gloomhaven for a bit now, and they're really excited this expansion has come out because they now have a goal to get to, right? Like, oh, hey, let's keep meeting, let's keep going through the story, let's keep doing it, and we'll eventually get to the Forgotten Circle.
Nice.
The next thing...
New thing of Keyforge.
Keyforge Age of Ascension.
Yes.
So, this is the new expansion from Keyforge. 204 new cards out of there. It also contains some of the cards from the original set. So, it will have something familiar for anyone who has played Keyforge, but this is also a great starting point for a lot of new people because there's a new starter box that came out with it. Everyone's kind of back to square one in terms of their collections and what they can play. And it is still got all that great features of the original Keyforge, where it's completely randomized decks. The decks are $10 a pop. You never know what you're going to get. And it should also have a lot more organized play and things like that now that there's more of a variety of cards and that you can get with it. So that dropped this week. We're really excited about it. We still have plenty of Archon decks and displays left in stock, and I believe we might be sold out of the starters already, which we should be getting in soon. So just something to look out for with that. And then the other new releases this week, we talked about the Halfling Blood Bowl team.
Yep.
They're dropping, and all the new Necromunda stuff. So basically a lot of stuff for narrative play for Necromunda. So like new cards, new events, all that sort of good things.
Do we got anything new from any of our other tabletop?
Not quite yet. We are looking at doing a Privateer Press reveal stream with some of the new items that are going to be releasing in June. We just have to, get them in and have a separate stream to kind of show them off. So we will definitely share that with you. Hopefully sometime soon, maybe early next week or even over the weekend. Just kind of depends on how things line up.
All right.
So we already got people coming in the store, so we need to sign off for it. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Yep.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching.